And we're going to be talking about attitudes, something that we all have. So often we have this concept of, well, he has a bad attitude. Well, he has a different attitude. And we're going to define that. We're going to find out what that means. And we're going to look at a proper attitude. We're going to look at a sect of people in Numbers who had a horrible attitude. We're going to look at a couple other individuals in the Bible who had a good attitude. And then the next week, we're going to look at what are some tangible things about how do we develop a better attitude than maybe we've had before. And we're going to look at Philippians chapter 4 as we look at that. I got a quote for you, 2 quotes. Actually, I've got quite a few quotes, but just to kick us off, and then I'll tell you who the person is who wrote this. The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of an attitude on life. Attitude to me is more important than facts. It is more important than the past, more important than your education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, than successes, than what other people think or say or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, a home. The remarkable thing is we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we will embrace for the day. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play on the one string we have, and that is our attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% what happens to us and 90% how we react to it. And so it is with you. We are in charge of our attitudes. The pursuit of happiness is a matter of choice. It is a positive attitude we choose to express. It is not a gift delivered to our door each morning, nor does it come through the window. And it is certain that our circumstances are not the things that make us joyful. If we wait for them to get just right, we will never laugh again. And that's good old Chuck Swindoll who wrote those quotes. So we're going to look at attitude and we're going to look at perspective. These two things kind of work hand in hand over the next couple weeks, and we're going to look at how they work in regards to our own life. So when we think about attitude, we have to find out first what it is. And we need to find out who controls this attitude. Who controls your attitude? Does God control your attitude? Is He the one who's, we're going to have this individual be sad here, and we're going to have this individual be have elation there, and is He the one who ultimately is in control of your attitude? How about others? Do they hold the strings of your attitude? And you're just this yo-yo. As things come your way, you respond. How about your wife? Or your significant other or a best friend? Does he control your attitude? Does he have the keys to pleasure in your life or disappointment and discouragement? How about your kids? Your kids obviously can control your attitude. I can attest to that. Do they have the control over your mindset? If those people would stop doing this or that, then I would be happy. Then I could control this or that. Or, hey, you don't know what I've got in my life. You don't know where I've came from. We've all heard that. If you're waiting for others to do something specific so you can have a specific attitude, you have no control over your attitude outcome. You're just drifting in the wind, just like these leaves out here with the wind blowing around them. They have no control over what's going on, and they are basically at the whim of whatever may happen. You've heard the quote, you can't control the wind, but you can adjust the sails. So what are you going to do with what comes your way? What are you going to do with disappointments, which we'll look at those? With problems, we'll look at those. With successes, all of these things that we define in our head of when we're going to be happy and when we're not. Who's ultimately in control of the right attitude? We have said someone has an attitude, or get a hold of your attitude. I've disciplined my boys for a bad attitude, right? Where they're sulking around. They have absolutely no business having that framework and having that emotion. Get a hold of your attitude. We've said that to people in the past. But what does that mean? Attitude really is a response internally to what has happened externally. You know, there's a book that says, don't let others rent space in your head. And the whole premise is, you know, the Wizard of Oz, and you know the back curtain right there, and the guy's twisting the knobs and doing all these different things. Who's controlling your attitude? Who's really in control of your life? Is it $1 million? Is it the new job promotion? Is it that new smell of that car that gives you that dopamine rush? Is it, for me, the cold plunge, or some flying, or whatever the case may be, that gives me that enjoyment and satisfaction and zest for life? Or is it right here? Is it an equation that I have in my mind that when these things line up, then this emotion is dispensed? It's a response internally. It's an expression emotionally of a perception we have of an event or an action. And who ultimately has allowed the events in our lives? It would be our Creator, right? There's so many things that come our way, and I talked about this a while back. Do you make life happen? Or, there's the quote that there's 3 different types of people in this world. They're the ones who wait for things to happen. There's the ones who wonder what happened. And there's the things that make things happen. Which one are you? Are you just this static person, thinking about this stream, this river, with everything flowing by it, and you're just instinctively responding? We're going to talk about next week thinking. How big of an impact does thinking have in your emotion versus instinctive response? That pig out there instinctively responds. There's not a whole lot of cognitive work going on with the pig. It's eating and sleeping and just normal day-to-day activities. But you and I are different. We have the ability to reason. We have the ability to take a thought captive and then to kick it out. We have the ability, when we see something happen in our lives that is really out of our control, which is something that happens fairly regularly in life when things happen. How am I going to respond emotionally? How am I going to respond with an attitude of gratitude, with an attitude of, all right, you know what, something's going on here and I'm going to learn from this opportunity. I'm going to learn from this flat tire, because we've all had that. I'm going to learn from this job that didn't go exactly as planned. I had all the skill, I had all the knowledge, I should have gotten it, and I didn't. Okay, so what's going to happen? You're going to sulk around all week, or all day, or all week, or maybe a quarter of the year, and drag us all through that, through your poor emotions, through your poor attitude? Or are you going to take it as from the Lord and move on and say, okay, this is an opportunity. I got to sharpen my skill. I got to do different things. The choice is yours. And we make this choice every single moment of every day. If I was to, I was thinking about a good little, if I was to show this to you, we know what it is, but how full is it? We've all used this. Mostly full? Is it half full? 2/3 full? You need to drink that. Is there any emptiness in it at all? Is it half empty? Is it half full? What is it really? It's your perspective, isn't it? We have multiple ways that we could look at this. If we look at it this way, it could be half, but we could look at it this way, it could be half, but then if we flip it around, well, now the half's the other. It's perspective, right? It's all just how you view it. And if I shake it like this and life is good, does anything come out? No? Right? It's good. Life's good. There's no growing, there's no learning, there's no stretching, and this is what we want out of life. We want a shut life, an easy life, right? But so often our life is a little shaky, right? And people bump us. And when people bump us, things come out, right? Emotions come out. Things we don't want to come out. And it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the more we get rattled, the more it just starts pouring out, right? And it depletes us. What's pouring out of your life? What emotions do you want somebody to catch? Thinking of a sickness. Because you are ultimately displaying emotions every moment of every day. They're falling out whether you want them to or not, right? People are bumping you, and there's friction, and there's disappointment, and there's opportunities, and then there's setbacks, and there's all these different things that are happening in your life. And as you're bumped and rattled and things are coming out, what are you depositing on other people? Hopefully, it's a good attitude. Hopefully, it's uplifting. Hopefully, it's something ultimately that honors the Lord. Again, your response through your emotions is a response to the Creator of everything that He's allowed to come your way. All of the things that you may or may not have wanted come your way. Yeah, there's sowing and reaping. Yeah, there's different things in your life that, well, I could have done something different here and the outcome may have been different there. But whatever the issue is, what is your response when you see something head your way? We're making decisions every single second on how we're going to act, what we're going to think about something, what's going to come out of us, and how what's going to make others feel. How is that going to make others feel when they're around us? I don't know about you, but I am a fairly optimistic person, fairly positive. You know, when somebody comes into a room, can you feel a sense of energy about them? If a negative person comes in the room, can you feel that, like, I don't really want to ask them how their day's going because they are telling me just with their body language and just with the way that they think and we've seen this with our boys. You know, you don't want to be around them. They're repelling you. Do you think, and this is, you don't have to answer it, but do you think maybe they're repelling opportunities in their life that could have come their way, but because of the outlook on their life, because of the ungrateful personality and just the, this grumbling personality, that there's opportunities that they will never seize and take hold of because everything that they really want in their life, they're pushing away. And then you see somebody else who comes in and they have this magnetic personality. I'll just use that, but you can define it a bunch of different ways. And things tend to work out for them, right? They tend to be like overly optimistic. Not that you need to be overly optimistic, but they make hay out of any grass that comes their way, right? They're finding out a way to twist it and use it to their advantage, right? For their benefit. And one way or another, things tend to work out for those individuals versus the one who walks around with a cloud over his head and wonder why nothing ever works out for him. It's perspective, right? John Maxwell said, in a word, most bad attitudes are the result of selfishness. Boil it all down. Woe is me. Man, if I only had what they had, if I only was driving what she was driving, if I only made so much money, well, hey, those opportunities may not have come to you, but what are you doing with what God's given you? What are you doing with the raw material you have? We've all been given raw material. Time is one of them. Energy is another one. Opportunities come and go. My dad used to say all the time, the bus comes around every 10 minutes. Things are coming, right? They're cyclical. Look at Ecclesiastes. So if you miss the first opportunity, there's a chance there's going to be another opportunity that comes around. Is your mindset going to be right where you'll notice it? Where you'll be able to seize upon it? Where you'll be able to look at it and thank the Creator for what He gives? I hope so. And that's kind of what we're going to look at a little bit. Bad attitudes will ruin your team. Tara Bradshaw said that. How many of you have been on a sports team with someone who's got a crabby attitude? Right? He doesn't want to play. He doesn't want to practice. He's frustrated that he didn't get to start as much as everybody else. It's like, you know what, dude? Why don't you go sit somewhere else? We don't want you in this team, right? We've got a morale here. We've got an energy going on, right? We think we're going to win. You think we're going to lose. Well, why don't you figure out your attitude and then come back? Nobody wants somebody with a sour attitude. What do you think? Well, and we're going to look at, regardless of what you think, that God the Father thinks when he sees one of his creation, someone made in his image, in his likeness, endowed with all of these things, moping around in life when everything really is at their disposal. If it frustrates me, I can't imagine the frustration that he would have. Seeing the potential, thinking of this kinetic and potential energy not being used, not being harnessed, not being delivered for his benefit. Attitude is the paintbrush of the mind, and we determine the picture. You're going to determine the rest of this day and tonight, as you put your head on your pillow, what your attitude's going to be tomorrow. And you already have an equation, right? You're either not going to get enough sleep, the kids are going to wake you up, or you're going to get too much sleep, and oh, we took a nap and now it's all messed up, and well, we got cloudy skies coming. All of these things subconsciously are being consumed by your mind, and you're deciding how you're going to react and what it's going to feel like. Do you know the power of a negative person in your life? Have you felt someone like that just belittles everything that you're challenged about and that you're going for? Oh, no, yeah, nope, you can't do that. Nope, well, I tried and failed one time, so you might as well don't even try it. Don't even waste your breath. They can derail you. They will take your train, your caboose, your whole locomotive, and run it off the track. There's nothing positive that a negative person can bring into somebody else's life. Nothing. It's useless. Now, we all like to be there. We all like to spend a little time there. The Lord Jesus, it says, was acquainted with grief. There's a time and a place to mourn. Look at Ecclesiastes. There's a time to cry. There's a time to laugh. There's a season. But we don't spend all of our life in one season, right? We got summer, spring, winter, and fall. And in Oklahoma, those seasons, they're on the calendar. They're a set time, but they ebb and flow. Some are longer than others. And we need to be mindful of that. There is little difference in people, but the little difference makes a big difference. The little difference is attitude. The big difference is whether it is positive or negative. We all are fairly similar. We all have time. We all hopefully have ambition. We all have an attitude. And then there's two different attitudes. A positive attitude towards life and a negative cyclical attitude towards life. And that's the big difference. It's not what comes your way. It's not the opportunities that you have. It's what you do with what you've been given every single day. So what does the Bible say about all of this? We're going to look at a couple verses. Actually, I'll just use my phone because it's quicker. I'm going to look at a couple verses here on what is something that we should be focusing on. Philippians chapter 2 and verse 14 is the first one, and we're just jumping in. We'll be in Philippians again next week. But in verse 13, just for context, for it is God who works in you both to will and to work for his good pleasure. Do all things. This is a command, right? Just like 65 miles an hour on the highway, it's not up for debate. Do all things without grumbling or disputing. How many things? All things. Well, you don't know my situation. I don't care about your situation. It's all things. This book was written before you were even around. All things. Without grumbling or disputing. Grumbling really means, if you look at Strong's, G 1112, it's murmuring. In this particular verse or word is only used 4 times in the whole entire Bible. Murmuring. Aaron, you know what that guy did? Can I tell you about what this guy at work did? I tell you what, I cannot stand him. Oh my goodness, every single time he makes me want to go punch somebody. And then disputing, G 1261 is used 14 different times in the Bible. A dispute, you kind of know how that all plays out, how that word is used. And what does the Bible say about these things? Do all things without these two things, grumbling and disputing. You grumble about the things that come your way. Like, if you grumble to me, okay, great, I'm me. But you know who you're grumbling to, right? The creator of the universe. The one who has allowed and planned a specific thing to happen in your life. And you're going to grumble about it? You know, he sees all things, right? He knows the thoughts and the intentions of your heart. He doesn't even need to see your emotion. You're going to show us that. He can see it before it's even shown. And you're going to take just the proverbial flat tire, and that's going to ruin your day? You know, it's just unbelievable when we pan out from more of a 30,000-foot view what all we've been given and what ticks us off, what sends us over the edge is so small in the scheme of things. It's almost embarrassing. So this is a command, something that you can take to the bank. Do all things without grumbling and disputing, that you may be blameless and innocent, children of God without blemish in the midst of a crooked and twisted generation, among whom ye shine as lights in the world. These are choices that can be made each and every day. So that's the first command. Proverbs 15:13. A glad heart makes a cheerful face. You've probably heard the phrase, if not, you'll probably hear it from me, act the way you want to feel and soon you'll feel the way you act. Sometimes it's hard to be happy. Well, tell your face that. Can't you act the way you want to feel? I mean, you have muscles that are controlled by this brain. Act the way you want to feel. How would you act if you were excited? I mean, your heart rate would raise, you would be excited, you would lift your head up off the ground, your shoulders would come back. All of these different things, they elicit a specific emotion. And you tell yourself when these things happen, this emotion will be displayed. A glad heart does what? Makes a cheerful face. But the sorrow of heart, the spirit is crushed. Where does all this begin? Does it say anything about the new car? Does it say anything about the weather? Does it say anything about your health? Does it say anything about something that you've really wanted and working for? No, it's a heart issue. A glad heart. And who gives the decision for that to happen? Is it me for you? No, it's you for you. That's something that you are in control of. You can create that emotion anytime you want. A glad heart makes a cheerful face. And what do we love to see in an individual? A cheerful face. We love to see somebody who's excited, somebody who's thankful, somebody who's grateful. You know, turn that frown upside down. Who controls that? We do. Such a simple equation. But the flip side, but the sorrow of heart, the spirit is crushed. And how many people do we see walking around with a crushed spirit? With dreams shattered, with opportunities missed, with all of these things that could have been theirs, and they missed it. Psalm 19:14. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord my God, and my Redeemer. Who controls words and meditations of the heart? We do. Right? We do. Let them be acceptable in your sight. Oh, Pat? No. Oh, Lord. This is such a big issue. Your thoughts, your meditations of your heart, your physical, emotional displays, they don't just reverberate in this room, right? I don't have to hold myself accountable emotionally to Aaron or to Jeff or to Pat. This is at the highest level. Oh, Lord. Us little peons walking around on this world with our little emotions. Oh, well, that's my emotions. I can do what I want. No, you're talking to the Lord, whether you like it or not. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. Proverbs 23:7. Do not eat the bread of a man who is stingy. Do not desire his delicacies, for he is like one who is inwardly calculating. Eat and drink, he says to you, but his heart is not with you. inwardly calculating, right? Thinking about things and making a concerted decision to not be happy, to not be grateful. Well, this didn't line up, and so, no, I'm going to let everybody know that I'm not happy. I'm going to make it miserable for everybody. Do we know people like that? Have you been someone like that in the past? So this brings us to Numbers chapter 11. Numbers chapter 11. And this is, we're not going to read the whole chapter, obviously, for time. If you follow the children of Israel around, they have just come out of captivity, 400 years of captivity. In chapter 10, you would think there would be some excitement. And in verse 36 of chapter 10, and when it rested, he said, "Return, O Lord, to the 10,000s of Israel." This is talking about the ark. 11:1. And the people complained in the hearing of the Lord about their misfortunes. And when the Lord heard it, his anger was kindled. Was it kindled before? No. No, it wasn't at all. What caused it to be kindled? They're complaining. They're murmuring. They're grumbling. Oh, well, we didn't have this. We wanted this and we didn't get it. So we're just going to be frustrated. Complaining. Grumbling. You know what we do with our kids when we hear that? We discipline them. We discipline that out of them, hopefully. We don't want to hear grumbling and complaining, right? Because we're blessed. There's so many opportunities to be thankful. You want to eat the food? That's fine. You're just not going to eat. Complaining. And the people complained in the hearing of the Lord. Immediately. And the Lord heard it, and his anger was kindled. And the fire of the Lord burned among them and consumed some outlying parts of the camp. I wonder what that looked like. Then the people cried out to Moses, and Moses prayed to the Lord, and the fire died down. Now this is interesting because before the people were going straight to God, communing with him. Well, after they complained and his fire or his anger was kindled, we better go through Moses. I think it'd probably be better if Moses does the praying for us. God's a little frustrated with us. So Moses prays to the Lord, and the fire died down. So the name of that place was called Taberah, because the fire of the Lord burned among them. Now the rabble is a disorderly crowd. We all have these, we've been to a concert, maybe you haven't been to a concert like I've had, but you go to this concert, you got all these law-abiding citizens, and then you got the rabble, which is like the mosh pit, and all they care about doing is just causing, chaos, basically. I won't tell you whether I've been in one group or the other, but there is always a smaller sect of these group. Now the rabble that was among them, this is the children of Israel, had a strong craving, and the people of Israel also wept again and said, "Oh, that we had meat to eat." Remember, they've had manna delivered to them every single day. They're living in houses they didn't make. They're, going in a place that the Lord defined for them. You got the pillar of fire. You've got the cloud. You've got shoes that don't wear out. I mean, never a rainy day in the camp. They have got it so good after leaving captivity. And they're thinking about the meat that they had to eat, or they could eat, when they were in captivity. "Oh, that we had meat to eat. We remember the fish we ate in Egypt that cost nothing." I mean, you can almost hear just this oh, if only we could have what we had. And God has brought us out here and given us this bland manna. "The cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. But now our strength is dried up, and there is nothing at all but this manna to look at." I mean, Wesley talks about how he is death hungry. That's his new word. I am death hungry. Well, he's literally there's been 2 hours between lunch or breakfast and lunch. He knows nothing about a 72-hour fast. He knows nothing about, not eating in a day. 2 hours worth, and he is deathly hungry. That's the way these people are. Nothing to look at. Now the manna was like coriander seed in its appearance, like that of bdellium. The people went about and gathered it and ground it in handfuls, or beat it into mortals, and boiled it in pots, and it talks about how they made it. Moses heard the people weeping, verse 10, through their clans, everyone at the door of his tent. So you can think of 600,000 people murmuring, standing at the door of their tent, just babbling about how they want meat and they miss the leeks and they're sick and tired of looking at manna. And the anger of the Lord blazed hotly. You've got two instances here of the Lord being angry. And in both instances, the Israelites had control of God's emotion. They had opportunities where God would be glad, where he would be thankful, where he would bestow blessing. We got the first instance where his anger was kindled, and the second instance where the Lord blazed hotly, and Moses was displeased even. These are full-grown adults complaining about everything that has been given to him. Moses said to the Lord, "Why have you dealt ill with your servant?" Moses takes it personally. He goes, "How did I get brought into this whole thing? They're the ones complaining. Now I'm interceding for you. I'm praying for you and all these things. And why have I not found favor in your sight that you lay the burden of all the people on me? Did I conceive all this people? Did I give them birth that you should say to me, carry them in your bosom as a nurse carries a nursing child to the land that you swore to give their fathers? Where am I to get meat to give to all these people? For they weep before me and say, give us meat that we may eat. I am not able to carry all this people alone. The burden is too heavy for me. If you will treat me like this, kill me at once." This is Moses speaking this. He is at his wit's end with these people. With these, if you're a parent, you can be at your wit's end with kids, where you're like, are you thankful for anything, or am I just the only one that is seeing this? This is the children of Israel speaking to God the Father and showing their displeasure. And it gets to Moses, and Moses says, if this is the way it's going to be, you might as well just take my life. If I find favor in your sight, that I may see my wretchedness. So then there's some elders appointed. And then in verse 24, so Moses went out and told the people the words of the Lord, and he gathered 70 men of the elders of the people and placed them around the tent. Then the Lord came down in a cloud and spoke to them, and took some of the Spirit that was on them, and put it on the 70 elders. And as soon as the Spirit rested on them, they prophesied, but they did not continue doing it. Now 2 men remained in the camp, one Eldad, and the other named Medad, and the Spirit rested on them. They were among those registered, but they had not gone out of the tent, and so they prophesied in the camp. And a young man ran and told Moses, Eldad and Medad are prophesying in the camp. And Joshua the son of Nun, the assistant of Moses from his youth, said, My lord Moses, stop them. But Moses said to him, Are you jealous for my sake? Would that all the Lord's people were prophets, that the Lord would put the Spirit on them? And Moses and the elders of Israel returned to camp. Then a wind from the Lord sprang up, and it brought quail from the sea, and let them fall beside the camp, about a day's journey on this side, and a day's journey on the other side, around the camp, and about 2 cubits above the ground. Some of us have been bird hunting. That's quite a covey coming in. And the people rose all that day and all that night and all the next day and gathered the quail. Those who gathered least gathered 10 homers, and they spread them out for themselves all around the camp. You hear any gratefulness at all when the quail came? You hear any, oh my goodness, thank you, Lord? None of that. They're spreading it all out for themselves. Well, the meat was yet between their teeth. Before it was consumed, the anger of the Lord was kindled against the people, and the Lord struck down the people with a very great plague. Therefore, the name of that place was called Gilbrath Kadavah, because there they buried the people who had the craving. And there's a lot of speculation as to what all happened here, but I'll just leave it at this. They were ungrateful for the opportunities that God gave them, and God said, you want meat? I'll bring it, and I'll bring a lot of it. And he consumed them because of their appetite, because of their desire for what God had brought them out of. He gave them exactly what they wanted, and it wasn't what God had intended for them. And there was much slaughter that day. Are you like the children of Israel? Am I like the children of Israel at times? When God places something in front of us, and we have a response, and our response is that of frustration. Our response is that of, I really wanted something else. I didn't like that. I don't like that. And we go about pouting and complaining and whining about all that God has given us. We don't have time to look at it, but there's different guys. We'll look at it next week in Scripture who had the proper attitude. David is one of them. Job is another one. And in life, for you to have the right attitude for yourself and those around you, perspective is everything. And let me read these words, and you tell me what you think. When you have discomfort, what does that mean to you? Is that a problem? No, actually, discomfort is an opportunity to grow. How about problems? Oh, if you only knew my problem. No, actually, problems are challenges, right? That shake you to your core, that make you change something. How about rejection? No, actually, that's redirection, is what that is. That's God working in opportunities. How about triggers? Actually, no, those are not negative. Those reveal wounds in your life that need to be healed. How about darkness? No, actually, darkness reveals light. It's the opposite of light. How about failures? You look at failures and think, I'm such a failure. No, failures actually are lessons in your life for you to grow and develop and not rehash. How about fears? You think about all these fears and people are so fearful. Actually, fears are teachers for you, free teachers that teach you something. And lastly, how about pain? Oh, you don't know the pain that I have in my life. Well, pain is a good opportunity to make a change in your life, and you're just not doing any of that. These are things that you're in control of. The circumstances that come, they will come. What is your response? And what is your perspective? Wayne Dyer said, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. With everything that has happened to you, you can feel sorry for yourself or treat what has happened as a gift. Everything is either an opportunity to grow or an obstacle to keep you from growing. You get to choose. You like control, don't you? I do. You get to choose what that thing that comes into your life is going to do. So what about me? What if I don't have all the things you talk about? If you only knew the struggles and where I have come from, again, your attitude is a response to what's been given to you. And I want to close with one verse, which is probably one of my all-time favorite verses. We'll probably look at it again next week, but just to prime the well here. Habakkuk 3:17 and 18. You think about Ecclesiastes, and Song of Solomon is telling his boys, don't look around you. Don't look at all the things that these guys have and all of this stuff. Though the fig tree should not blossom. Maybe this is your life. Maybe you planted a bunch of seed. We got a bunch of fruit trees out here, and some years they don't work so well, and other years they do work really well. So though the fig tree should not blossom, the heavy frost stays a little late, takes all the buds off the tree. Nor fruit be on the vines. So you got blossoms, then you got fruit. So one works in front of the other. So now we don't have any fruit. The produce of the olive fail. Olives were very big in this time. So, you had all this wealth of oil that you could sell, and you don't have anything. And the fields yield no food. You went out, you labored, right? There's an expectation of a harvest, and these trillion locusts that are going to show up in a couple weeks or so come and take it all away. You got no food. Flocks be cut off from the fold, and there be no herd in the stalls. Not only are they out to pasture, but they're gone, and you go back to your pen to see if there's anything there, and there's nothing in the stall. You've got nothing. Nothing. What's your response going to be? You going to curse God? You going to tell him, how could you? Why would you? It's my fault. I'm a failure. I'll never amount to anything. If only I had whatever. What does Habakkuk do? Yet, in spite of what has happened, we don't have to put our head under a rock. In spite of what has happened, these are all true to me. Yet, I will rejoice in the Lord. Rejoice, not murmur, not mutter, not, all right, Lord, thank you. Rejoice. Like, actually be glad about it. Be thankful for it. And I will joy in the God of my salvation. Hopefully that is your response to what the Lord has done in your life. We saw some men who had a horrible attitude and a few that had the proper attitude. But how about you? How can you have the right perspective and attitude as things come your way? And we're going to look next time on how that starts, and it starts with your thinking. And we're going to look at Philippians 4 with that, and that's where we'll find some answers to that.